Here in the belfry room of St John on Bethnal Green Church is our sunset, where we have 13 artworks, each presented by different altar artists. Each work is predominantly black and all are staged within an immersive lighting installation, comprising glowing coloured LED lights emanating from the floor, which aim to create the illusion of the setting sun sinking into the corners and floor of the space, as well as spotlights shining on each work to give each piece a celestial glow. Firstly, we have the second part of Cesar Barraca's body of work entitled Monument. Monument 2, like Monument 1, uses 32 internal cardboard tubes from rolls of toilet paper, with a view to positing the surreal ordering of our priorities during the pandemic. Here, this everyday object has been repeated and painted with black acrylic, presenting a gothic and dark parallel to the aforementioned white version of this work, which is presented in the Sunrise Room. Secondly, we move on to Tom Norris's sculpture, Antiquate, which explores the question of what constitutes an artefact. As a potter himself, Norris used ceramic and reclaimed wood to consider this subject matter. The artist used the British Museum's online archive of 3D renderings as his source material for artefacts depicted in this work. He 3D printed them, then applied plaster to these prints to create a mould. He later used clay to take a cast of the positive image from the plaster mould, and further manipulated the clay using hand sculpting techniques before glazing and firing. Examples of the artist's chosen artefacts can be seen in the resulting ceramic frieze-like panel, including a Toby jug. The artist has comically remarked that the work is a Frankenstein, where artworks from different moments in history have been merged together in one sculpture. The surrounding wooden habitat for this work has been constructed from wood taken from St Paul's School, where Tom Norris works as a creative technician. All the wood is over a century old, having been taken from a building at the school which is being demolished. Following from Norris, we have Mandeep Dhillon's sculpture entitled Being, which comprises a skeletal anthropomorphic structure constructed from steel, wire and flock powder. Its positioning against the wall in this way in the belfry evokes an image of a slumped figure in need of a solid surface on which to lean for support. The pared back figure is reminiscent of the human form, but bears characteristics which are simultaneously non-human, and is constructed from man-made components. To me, it seems to play with agency and self-determination as it appears to have submitted to its viewers, whilst retaining an unsettling sense of danger and unease. The artist remarks that the work draws on personal experiences of fragility, vulnerability and mortality. Next is the second of Paul Hindle's sculptures, inspired by the agriculture of coffee beans and its associated political and natural problems. Whilst Hindle's first work seems dynamic and animated, as if the bird is due to take off into flight, his darker second piece is splayed out and lifeless, presenting a stark contrast between his works in each of the exhibition spaces. Accompanying Hindle's sculpture is a recorded sound installation, which plays from within this red cupboard. The sound work is intended to play with our feelings of discovery and haptic sensitivities as it is hidden, relying on the viewer's ability to tune into the work using more than just the sense of sight. Shown next are 3 sculptures created by my co-curator Terry Chad. Chad's sculptures in this room are in 3 different locations, with a 4th related work presented in the yard of the church at the back. This installation is entitled Are We Sinking? And has been constructed from metal armatures encrusted with wire, papier-mâché, fiberglass and waterproof jesmonite. Presented recently in the forecourt of the Royal British Society of Sculptors, this installation is displayed again here at St John's, but this time split up between a multiplicity of locations. It depicts 3 vultures and a sinking origami boat, making reference to current feelings of collapse that the world around us is undergoing. Chad communicates this in a darkly theatrical way. Responding to the coronavirus pandemic, climate change, Brexit, political instability, artificial intelligence and much more, the artist explains that the birds will not save humanity as in the biblical story of Noah's Ark, But in a world where institutions and religion appear to have lost their value and credibility, the vultures just stare, waiting to see humanity sink. We have chosen to place the sculptures in nooks and crevices within the belfry space to accentuate the encounter one has when finding each work. Following on, we present Lois Bentley's interactive work, Spaced Out. Spaced Out is activated serendipitously when stepping on the trigger mat on the floor. Once animated, a cylindrical painting through which a light shines, mechanically spins and projects coloured light onto the steel sculptures in this mirrored box. The rotating part of this work runs at 33 revolutions per minute, echoing the storage of sound on long-playing vinyl records. The work resonates with themes such as the beauty of standing still and searching for something new. The artist has succinctly written about this work, come close, look deep, indicating the importance of letting the mind wander and seek and explore. The mirrored box reflects each hand-forged steel sculpture infinitely in this encased world. The activation of this work to me is reminiscent of a zoetrope, in the way that light enters from one direction to reveal a moving scene, except in this instance, the metal sculptures remain still whilst the dancing light illuminates an inordinate number of possible reconfigurations, shadows and reflections. Hanging here is Sun by Maritina Kellery. Kellery's interpretation of the question of are we moving towards the last sunset or a new sunrise takes the form of reflecting this question we pose to the world back on us, the collective, the community and the individual. The artist posits that it is our actions as human beings that will lead to the ensured preservation of our environment, or contrastingly to the hastening demise if nothing changes. This sculpture takes the form of an abstracted representation of the sun, which simultaneously reflects the face of the viewer, reminding us of our responsibilities towards our world as individuals by forcing us to see ourselves in the last sunset or new sunrise. Beside Kellery's sculpture is Alexander Tishkov's installation entitled While the Ivy Grows Over the Door. Tishkov combines wood, rope, wax, fired terracotta, soil and ivy to create a piece inspired by the common characteristics of a Christian church: stained glass, candles and thorns. The sculpture's components within Tishkov's work grow out of two lion balls. These are hollow terracotta casts taken from the feet of a coffin found within Hackney churchyard gardens. Informed by the artist's thinking on the cultural significance of the growth of ivy, this work incorporates ivy in order to further explore how ivy symbolises survival and adaptability. Known for its hardiness as a plant, ivy can adapt to many different climates and conditions, and unless controlled, will spread aggressively, becoming a parasite in Tishkov's view. Ornately carved wood forms much of this installation, suggesting connotations with ritual, tradition and devotion. Next we have the other work in my Looking at Space diptych of heartbroken prints. In this iteration, the image has been printed in silver ink on black paper in order to reverse the colours of this composition. The house now appears to be glowing and phosphorescent, whilst the spaces between the printed areas are jet black and foreboding. These prints are explorations of the qualities and politics of different types of space in the context of quarantine. I began this body of work after trying to view the International Space Station during Lockdown 1, when I discovered that it was approximately only 200 miles away. This fact resounded with me as it emphasised that our isolation and curtailed freedoms were relative to a great many other factors, both external ones such as the fact that we are at the mercy of the virus itself, but also internal factors to do with our own personal agency and choices. The printed images which resulted from this inquiry depict both a vast expanse of outer space and, in contrast, the seclusion of suburban domesticity. These works are informed by my thinking on how different types of space can represent our adaptations to a new way of life, whilst considering the tensions that arise within the simultaneity of being both homebound individuals and constituents of broader communities for which we are all responsible. Next we have the second work of Ana Luisa Rodrigues, entitled Ardiente, translated from the Portuguese as Burning. This poetic work comprises a glossy back painted fire extinguisher set within a solid black block of concrete. Despite the industrial nature of the chosen materials, there is a dangerous sense of seduction surrounding the mirror-like surface of the extinguisher, and a gentle, almost tidal pattern photographically preserved within the surface of the concrete block. The artist has described this work as an aesthetic appreciation of the evening energy awakening that generates a discomfort caused by the tension between the maintenance of the status quo. It seems to channel a sense of futility and inoperability in the restriction of function to which the extinguisher has been subjected, and as though a fire is burning but cannot be put out. The object is trapped and seems almost to represent a personification of feelings of hopelessness felt during the pandemic. Natalie May is the next artist in this space. May's work takes the form of a chromogenic print on an aluminium panel. In contrast to the print in the Sunrise Room, this work is predominantly black, with just a few streaks of white to suggest that it may be a horizon line at the beginning of the break of a new day. It aims to challenge the idea of beginnings and endings by linking the line of the horizon to the photographic editing process, playing with perceived notions of light and day, dawn and dusk, and sunset and sunrise. The artist sees these photographic inquiries as happening in accordance with the Möbius strip, cyclically renewing and repeating infinitely. The penultimate work in this room is called Disposable, and it is by Ludmila Sigismondo. This work is a chalk drawing about the artist's concerns for the environment and waste levels as a result of excessive use of disposable masks. Sigismondo considers the tensions that arise between individuals' instincts for self-preservation and the more general but equally urgent matter of the environmental crisis we face as a planet. Using chalk to produce a beautifully subtle drawing which references litter, used masks, detritus on the ground, and elements from nature, the artist poses the important and perhaps unanswerable question of which is more important, health or environment. Perhaps these issues go hand in hand. Can we ensure the health of ourselves by collectively helping to heal our environment? Finally, we reach Teresa Paiva's second wearable sculpture, entitled Surya, the counterpart to the first artwork, Chandra, that we discussed in the Sunrise Room. As previously mentioned, Paiva's works in this exhibition use mudra hand gestures and the practice of yoga in her response to the exhibition concept. The artist describes this sculpture as a wearable altar, and it was worn for her performance in collaboration with performance artist Sarah White on the opening night. Paiva's sculptures are informed by notions of the human body being considered a temple, in addition to meditation, solar energy, and working with reusable materials available within one's immediate grasp. And that concludes the talk. We hope you enjoyed it. Keep an eye on our Instagram and other social media pages to see further excerpts from this exhibition, performance footage, and news of future projects. Last Sunset New Sunrise is still open until the 31st of July from 5 to 8 on Fridays and 12 to 6 on weekends, and otherwise by appointment.